Hello, farmers, and welcome to another episode of The Harvest Season. My name is Al.
And my name is Jonnie.
And we're here today to talk about cottagecore games. Woo! Welcome, Jonnie. How are you doing?
I am tired. I have been moving countries, and it's a lot. I would not recommend doing it that frequently.
Or ever, really.
I mean, depends which country you're currently in.
That's true. That's very true. Cool. Transcripts are available in the show notes on the website as usual. In this episode we're going to talk about Spirittea, a new game that has just come out. Spirittea. Who knows? We may yet find out. We have concluded that we're probably going to call it Spirittea, even though both of us in our heads have called it Spirittea.
I mean, Spirittea it rolls off the tongue better, but Spirittea is, I guess, what the game is.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that. So we're going to talk about Spirittea. Obviously, we've got some news. We've got lots of exciting news. But first of all, Jonnie, what have you been up to?
What have I been up to? Well, I haven't had a ton of time to game because moving countries takes a lot of time, and gaming is a thing that's very easy to give up when you've got priorities like finding a home. But there was the Nindies showcase last week, and there was a few games that kind of came out off the back of that. There's been some really good indie games that have been released recently, and so I've kind of been trying a few. I tried Backpack Hero, which is okay. Don't love it yet. I feel like the onboarding experience has not been great.
Right.
And so I bounced off that quickly because I just don't have brain space to kind of figure stuff out that's not obvious. It could be really good. Like, I like the system. The system feels very similar to Slay the Spire. But instead of a deck of cards, you are building a backpack of stuff, and the location of stuff in the backpack matters, which is cool.
Yeah, to me it just looked like an organizational game. And I wasn't really like, oh yeah, this really grabs me, but I can, I guess each to their own. Yeah,
I would say if like anyone out there enjoyed Slay the Spire, then I think this is worth looking at because the combat is very, I mean, they basically just copy and pasted Slay the Spire combat. So, yeah, people who know that will be into it. But the thing that I have been playing that has grabbed me is Cocoon. So Cocoon is like a indie puzzle game, I guess I would describe it as. For me, the most amazing thing about this game is you just start playing. There is no like thing that appears on the screen that says press this button to do this thing. So there's no tutorial, there's no onboarding experience. The onboarding is that the game is really, really, really well designed, and it's just super intuitive what to do at any point in time, even though some of the stuff that you do is pretty brain-breaking. It's amazing. It's like the first, played maybe half an hour of it, and it has been an incredible half hour of gameplay.
Interesting. I haven't played it. I haven't really seen any footage of it either, but I did see that it's up for a game award. So guess it can't be too bad.
It is not too bad. In fact, I would hesitate to say it is very, very good. And I think even if it's not the sort of thing that you're super interested in, I think there's something in the way this game starts and onboards you that more games, maybe even one that we're going to talk about later today, really need to take a lesson from.
Yeah, that's the thing we keep harping on this podcast is your onboarding, your tutorial really matters, and you can do good ones, you can do bad ones. I think it's very hard to do a really well-designed game so you don't have to explain anything to people, but I do think that sometimes people over-explain things.
I totally agree, right? Because to me, this is a relatively simple game in terms of how you play it. in terms of the buttons you need to press and those sorts of things. So they could get very clean with their onboarding experience, but this is the sort of thing that should be held out there as like every game is aspiring to onboard its players in a way that's as seamless as Cocoon. And it's kind of one of those ambitions that most games won't be able to achieve, but should still be holding out there of this is what best looks like.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many games I've fallen off of within the first half an hour because it's just so hard to get into games sometimes, and you just end up going like, I can't be bothered learning something new. Let me go play Stardew again.
Yep. But that's the thing, right? That first half hour of your game is the most important because that's where people decide if they want to keep playing it or not, and it's where like you've got to make sure it's the most fun, and it's the biggest downfall when you play a game and you're like, I'm sure there's something fun here, but I just can't be bothered finding it.
Yeah, and I guess the thing about the, not to go down too much a deep rabbit hole, but like thinking back to like Stardew didn't go like, oh, grab this tool and hit this button to. No, it says grow some turnips and you have to figure out what that means, and it says meet some villagers and you have to figure out what that means, and there's little bits and pieces, but there's not like that kind of, oh, as you say, like this button does that, this button does that, right? You just figure it out.
You figure it out, yeah. So other than that, I've still been snapping up a storm, continuing to hit Infinite every season. Did another Infinite Conquest, so I now have the rock avatar with the cool border, and I still really, really like that game. It's really good. Have you been snapping it all out?
I picked the game back up again yesterday, after probably like a month and a half. I'm really bad at like, I struggle to kind of just go through periods of time to actually do it every day, because I guess the thing about Snap is that it's hard to do just like, oh, I'll just play for half an hour here and then do it again in 2 weeks, right? Because you got to keep up. You don't like, it's not like it's not fun, but if you want to actually do stuff, you got to keep up to date with things, especially if you want to do any of the season passes, right? You got to say, right, I'm gonna play this month, not necessarily every day, not necessarily all the time, but I'm gonna be playing at least every couple of days for this month if I'm gonna do the season pass.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I've been up to. What have you been up to?
So I got back into Fall Guys again. Love it. I was always enjoying that game. Especially because Craig likes to watch me play it. So that's good fun. I got back into Coral Island just as Spirittea was coming out. Coral Island decided to release their 1.0, and what can I say? I really like Coral Island. I feel like Coral Island has hit that point where, for me, it is at least as good as Stardew Valley, if not better. And it doesn't, like, obviously it's trying to be that, right? It's trying to do all of the things in the same way that Stardew was trying to be Harvest Moon, but it's trying to do it in different ways as well. And I think it's got to the point where it's doing enough different things that you feel like you're not just playing just Stardew with a different skin. And it also just happens to look really nice as well.
That sounds kind of amazing. I feel like Coral Island is creeping further and further up my list of games I need to try.
Yeah, definitely. It's I think if people like farming sims and you want to try, like if you like Stardew Valley, but you're like, maybe let's try something different, it is a really good one to try. It does things really well. Everything is nice. The characters, like, it's the first one in a long time that I felt like I actually care about some of the characters, and I'm like trying to figure out which one I want to romance because there's so many good ones and that sort of stuff. And like there's a mystery in the game that actually feels like it makes sense and you want to learn more about it rather than just like, oh, there's a dark secret. No, that's, it's trying to be interesting and it's succeeding, and there's extra bits and pieces as well on top of your standard farming sim, right? So it's not just Stardew Valley with a different skin. I'm really enjoying it.
Awesome.
And I started playing Sonic Frontiers, and I'm probably going to stop playing for Sonic Frontiers. I like, okay, I know you don't like Sonic games. That's fine. No one's going to try and make
That's never an opinion I've expressed.
Not at all. Never. Definitely not. The problem is, right, like I really, really like 2D Sonic games, right? Like I really enjoy them. and but I've never enjoyed a 3D Sonic game. Well, I guess an exception of Generations, which merged 2D and 3D Sonics and actually worked really well. Other than that, I have never enjoyed a 3D Sonic. And I just keep going into them going, maybe this will be the one that I enjoy. And no, my problem is the third dimension of it just massively slows down your momentum. And that, I think, causes massive problems with how I like playing these games. And so I just really struggle with every single one. So it's like, I mean, there are some things that it does really well. I like how it looks, and I like a lot of the ideas that they've done. But my word, just the momentum is terrible, and the controls are not great. It just is not. I'm not enjoying it.
Yeah, it's a shame when games have like sort of that thing that they do really well, and then they keep trying to make. It's kind of like they keep trying to make fetch happen, right? And it's just like, maybe Sonic should just stick to what it knows, which is apparently 2D side-scrolling games. Like, those are the ones that people seem to generally like a lot more, and I don't know why they keep trying to make 3D games happen.
Yeah. It's a difficult one. I mean, I guess some people must like them because they keep buying them, right? Surely.
No, Sonic fans are just like beaten down, and they keep buying it in the hopes that it will be good, and it never is. But equally, they never learn the lesson.
You getting at me here? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man. Should we talk about some news?
Let's do it.
Little Lands finally has a publisher and is apparently coming mid-2024. I guess you would describe this as like a farming sim with the aesthetics of Zelda. What's it called?
I've been trying to think of the name for like the last. Link's Awakening.
Zelda, the Dream of a Fish. Link's Awakening. That's it. Zelda's in the dreams of the fish.
Spoilers for a 30-year-old game.
Look, I'm sorry. If you've not played that game, it's not that big a spoiler.
I mean, the title almost gives away that ending.
Yeah. So that's how I would describe this game. Is that fair?
Yep. I mean, like, it has that aesthetic. Like, it looks like a fun world to run around and explore.
Yeah.
But I don't get a strong sense of like, does this game actually look fun to play or not? I don't know. I don't know that I have seen enough of the gameplay to really get a strong sense of.
Yeah.
Is there anything beyond just looking like Link's Awakening?
Yeah, that's fair. It does look a lot more kind of exploration-y than I had initially thought when because I've been following this since they first posted screenshots. And back then it was very much like, oh, this is like a life sim. And now it's very much like explore a world brimming with secrets. Like it's more than a life sim.
Yeah, from like this trailer that they've put out, like 90% of it seems to be focused on exploration, rather than life sim. Like I do not get strong life sim vibes from what they're currently showing.
No, it'll be interesting to see what it actually ends up like. But I guess games can change quite a bit as you go through them. So we'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, like I love this. I love the aesthetic. Like I was a big fan of how Link's Awakening looked and had a really good time playing that. So it's at least interesting to me.
Yeah. I really, just as a side note, I really like what they did with the remake of Link's Awakening. I think it was such a good balance of being the same but also being different that a lot of remakes miss. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, me too. Like I think anytime when you see a remake and they put the faithful remake sort of label around it, you're just like, I don't know that that's going to be good. Like I want to see a remake that's like take some lessons from how game development has matured, and I feel like Link's Awakening is a perfect example of doing exactly that. Yeah,
definitely.
Also, if you want to see some wild stuff, watch Link's Awakening speedruns. They do some crazy things in that game. Speedruns
just in general just stress me out with the crazy things that people do. Like, have you seen Fall Guy speedruns?
No, but now I really want to do that because I bet those are
Oh my
amazing.
words.
I think, yeah,
Oh my word, you need to go and Google the Lily Leapers speedrun. I'll stick a link in the show notes, but there's a Lily Leapers speedrun is absolutely insane. Like, I don't know how they manage to do what they do. It's just wild. Like, this thing that normally takes like a minute and a half to do, they did in like 18 seconds.
incredible.
Wild.
Is there a speed run of the what's the level that I hated or when the game first came out? There's like that mountain that you're running up and there's the goo that's rising with
Fall
you.
Mountain.
Fall Mountain.
Oh,
yeah.
slime climb is the one where the goo comes up with you.
Oh yeah, slime climb, that's the one. Yeah. I want to see someone do that in a way that's super broken because I bet they can just like bounce off all the
26
obstacles.
seconds.
Far out.
They're like, jumping on. I do. There's a few. They've got. It's a specific slime climb with like specific obstacles that allow you to like jump on things. Oh, that's wild. And then they hit themselves over with the big Yeetus. Oh, that's crazy.
I love the big Yeetus.
Everything has to go. Everything has to go right for this exact speed run.
Yeah, those are the best speedruns.
Like
where there's that little bit of like there's the skill and there's that little bit of RNG and built into it as well.
Yeah. I've got to the point now where I can do slime climb every time. I never die on it now, but I'm not like 26 seconds fast. Speaking of Slime Rancher 2, the Come Rain or Slime update 0.3 is out now. I know I harp on about version numbers, right? But it's Slime Rancher 2 version 0.3. Why are we doing this? Why? Just why? Why?
No, I'm with you. Like, it's silly. We need some like standardization. One, I think this is one of those things, right, where it's like, just make things clearer, right? If all games did things the same way, what they're trying to communicate would actually be clear. But because everyone's just made up random numbers, it's not clear what this means. So don't even put the numbers with it. Just say, we are still in beta and we don't have, like, and here are our patch notes.
Well, this is the thing, because everybody seems to name their updates as well. This is the Come Rain or Slime update. You don't need to give it a number as well.
Yes, exactly.
Like, obviously behind the scenes it needs to have a number because of all the updates, blah 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 blah. I don't care. That's fine. Put it in, but you don't have to call it that, right? Like, it literally at the top it says Come Rain or Slime patch 0.3.0 notes, right? You don't need to do that. Just go with it. Just also, right, major gripe. So they call this a major update, right? In my world, a 3-digit version number, a major update is the first version, the first number, not the second number. The second number is minor and the third number is patch, right? Get with it. We have a standard for this already. Semantic versioning. Game designers need to get back on semantic versioning. It is good. It works. Go with it.
I co-sign this rant. What is the Come Rain or Slime update actually about? I feel like Slime Rancher is one of those things that I have like...
Oh, I don't know. There's weather in it.
So I'm gathering that neither of us are really Slime Rancher people, and there's an update and there's stuff in it, and maybe if you like Slime Rancher, you probably know, and if you don't, it's still not 1.0, so maybe just chill.
So there's new slimes and there's a new weather system, and that's about it. But also, when I say new slimes, what I mean is new slimes that were in the first game.
Oh great, so we're back to... Okay. I feel like the more I hear, the less I'm interested in Slime Rancher, and I was already not in a great place to be interested in Slime Rancher.
I have the first version of Slime Rancher on my Switch, but I haven't played it yet. I like the look of the game. It looks nice, and I love like all the slimes with their just like derpy faces on them. But it's a lot to make me play a game, you know.
Yep. There's just a lot of good that's out there, right? And this is just one that, for whatever reason, for us is clearly not hitting.
What we got next? One Lonely Outpost. They have a new update. It's not a massive update, so I don't normally talk about small updates like this, but they have included one feature that every game needs to have. You need to have this. They have toggled running. So you don't have to hold down the run button. You press the run button and now you're running, and then you press it to stop running. Every game needs to have this. Please and thank you.
I thought you were talking about the fact that roast carrot no longer has a special effect. But no, you're right.
What is the special effect that it no longer has?
It just got no, you're totally right. The run like being a option rather, or like a toggleable thing. Toggleable. Rather than holding down a button is nice. But this game's still weird.
Because I mean, we'll get onto the art style does seem still really weird compared to the initial ones they did. But anyway, that's beside the point. I was especially we'll get onto Spirittea later, but I was especially annoyed at having to hold down run button in Spirittea because it's like such a slow movement anyway, and it's just I'm so fed up. Like, why do we have running and walking? Just give me the fastest speed that you're willing to give me. Just give me that. I don't need anything else. I don't need to go slow. Nobody cares. Make me go fast.
I totally agree. It feels like one of those things that's built in as an option, but the option doesn't mean anything because, like, is there a benefit to walking? No. Okay, so I will just run all of the time, which means I just have to hold down this button all of the time, which is stupid. So, like, the one thing One Lonely Outpost now needs to do is remove walking, because why would you walk?
Yeah. There's a lot of other updates in this as well. We're not going to go through them. We'll have the link in the show notes if you want to see all those updates. Moonstone Island is coming to Switch in spring 2024. This was one of the things that was announced in the Nindies update.
Yeah, cool. I feel like I've forgotten which one Moonstone Island is in this slew of absurd games that are coming out.
So this one is the Creature Collection one on a series of floating sky islands.
That's right. And this is the one where it has like quite strong RPG elements from the looks of it, and it just feels like every time I see this one they've got another thing that's kind of like in at the moment because it's got the card-based combat now, and it kind of feels like word salad of like all of the
they got a tombola full of different things that you can describe your game as, and they pulled out 10 of them.
Yep. I mean, cool that it's coming to Switch. I don't know that this one's particularly high on my, anticipation list.
I really like the look of it, and I think I do want to play it at some point, but I don't know when. Because the problem is, right, with every game you've got to play, you've got to demote a different game. Like, you can't play every game. So it's like, which game is this going to take the place of? I don't know. Just now, I'm just going to play Coral Island until the end of the year, probably.
That sounds amazing. Not mad about that. They also have a patch for Moonstone Island.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if there's anything exciting in the patch notes, but
there's one thing exciting.
Is that they have difficulty for fishing?
No, that wasn't what I was going to say. But go for it.
I just like the idea that like fishing is often, as Fishing Month that we did sort of showed, it's quite divisive in terms of what people like or don't like, or the Stardew Valley fishing, right? Some people really like the challenge, some people really hate it, and so I think having the ability to scale your difficulty for that one in particular, because it's often one of the few more dexterity or skill-based things in cottagecore games, I think is a really good accessibility feature.
Yeah, I don't disagree. That's a good point. No, the thing that I was really excited about is they've added a new gardening tool, the boomerang.
So wait,
who expected a boomerang to be a gardening tool? So it's for cutting down crops.
I really want to hate that, but I actually think that's kind of amazing as a way of doing the, hey, your scythe or whatever can extend in a distance. Actually, just throw a boomerang and it will just cut them all down.
Yeah.
That's a cool idea.
It's great, isn't it? I feel like
great.
Maybe I feel like I need to make a joke about you being in Australia now and now liking a boomerang thing.
Yes, I feel like you do. Go.
That's about as far as I've gotten with that.
listeners make up your own joke and then pretend I'll said it.
My problem is that I quite often have like good ideas for jokes, but I'm never good on the like execution of them. So I just like bring up the idea I have, and then sometimes people chuckle at it, and I go, comedy.
I mean, look, if you get a laugh, right? That's all you need.
Yeah, it's deconstruction of jokes, right? That's what it is.
Yep. I'm just serving you the idea of a joke, not the actual joke itself.
Still better than a lot of comedians.
I'm now just imagining a comedy club where it's just people talking about their ideas for jokes and like no actual jokes.
It's like
Which I feel like it's maybe just an improv workshop.
Well, that's the thing. I'm thinking of more like an AA meeting for people who like just can't stop thinking about ideas for jokes, but they can't actually make them into jokes. This morning I had 3 ideas for jokes, but I couldn't fully form them. I mean, isn't that basically just sketch shows, right? Sketch shows are just ideas for jokes.
No, I think sketch shows are ideas for jokes that are then badly executed.
Oh.
All right.
This is a boomerang.
Great.
So Spirittea have detailed their upcoming stuff. It's not really a roadmap. It's not as like fully functioning and concrete as that. But there's a list of things that they want to change, including some bugs and stuff. So I've got a list of that in the show notes. There's nothing particularly I think we need to bring up.
No, it's all relatively
good that they're looking
like,
into it.
It's very bug focused, I would say.
Yes. Yeah. What's next? Sorry, I'm half asleep. Coral Island.
What?
No,
oh yeah, we have
Coral Island.
One. Sorry, I skipped that.
Missed one. Come on. Shh. Coral Island. There are PS5 keys. Apparently, there was an issue getting the PS5 keys for backers on Kickstarter. So, too bad. I guess you'll get it soon. I guess we're in the quick fire round here. So we've got Lodonaut as well. They've said they're going to donate to charity for each sale. So
that's great.
That's
I love saying Lodonaut. Lodonaut. It's a very fun mouthfeel.
Yes. And Above Snakes are now available on GOG. So if you wanted that, now you might say, "Oh, it's just another sale." Well, the good thing about GOG compared to other games shops is that they are DRM free, so you can now get the game without DRM. So that's good.
And it's always weird to see a Steam store page about advertising that you're available for sale on another platform.
That's a good point. I hadn't even noticed that. And finally, there's a new game that's been announced called Little Known Galaxy. I'll just read out the little blurb for this one. Join Space Alliance as a new captain in training and work with your crew to solve the mysteries of an ancient relic found on the Grey Planet. Little Known Galaxy is a cozy single-player RPG space adventure full of friendly characters, exploration, crafting, and farming.
So this one confused me because it had similar vibes to another game that we've talked about on the show that I can't remember the name of, where I think you're like a delivery person in space.
Oh yes, Starstruck Vagabond.
That's the one. Yes, I couldn't think of the name of it. So it just feels like space is now the new thing for cozy games.
Well, it is the final frontier.
Also, it is the final frontier. Also, this person is building a fireplace in their spaceship, and I don't know how I feel about that.
There's some stuff that takes away the fumes and deals with it. Magic. Okay. Wow. Science.
I mean, it looks cool.
I think the thing about space games is that I suspect they're really hard to do well, but there's also a lot of potential in them if you can do it well.
Yeah, I mean, like, one of the things that I am liking from what I'm seeing in the trailer for Little Known Galaxy is like rather than having seasons, you just have different planets. Is the impression that the game is giving off, right? Because presumably you won't have seasons on your spaceship because you can entirely regulate the temperature and everything in there. But then if you go to, an ice planet or whatever, you could get more varied sort of places where you're doing stuff, which seems kind of cool.
Yeah. I feel like I suspect. I wonder whether. I mean, I'm just watching this trailer for the first time, but I wonder whether you like make your ship bigger or whether it's always the same size and you just kind of like get new things to fill it with. Because there are different bits that look smaller and bigger, but maybe they're just different parts of the ship.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell. It seemed like there was sort of one main zone that they showed in the trailer where all of your automation and buildings and stuff are going. So I could see that being a space that you expand over time. It's one of the cool things about spaceships is you can presumably just add more to it, add more space. So
yeah, we'll find out. I like the look of this. I think I like the art style.
I also really like the look of this. When I saw that it was a new game, I was a little bit like, really, do we need another thing like that's doing this thing? And then watching the trailer, I was like, actually, I think I'm kind of into this. Like the art style's really, it's good without being too much the same as like a Stardew Valley. Like it's definitely inspired by, but it does have its own distinct visual style. And I think the trailer does a really good job of showing off the sorts of different places that you'll be going in the course of this game. And it's very vibrant, right? And so it looks quite good. And the shot that they show of the main zone looks kind of like a lot of automation-y sort of stuff, which is appealing.
I think what I really like about the art style is it feels like it's in this sort of same style as a SNES or a Game Boy or Game Boy Advance game in that sort of thing, but it doesn't feel dated. Like it feels like the graphics are like if we were doing that now, right? Like they feel a lot, they're higher fidelity sprites and stuff like that. So it feels like, I mean, I still like Stardew and I still like what it does, but the sprites sometimes feel a little bit dated in them, which I know is kind of the point, but I like how this is doing the same feeling of that, but with modern sprites, if that makes sense.
It totally does. I think that's a really good description of what it is. It feels like, this is inspired by that Stardew art style, but it's kept up with modern times where Stardew is a little bit more of a callback to the past, and it's been replicated so many times now, it like feels tired, right? If you see that exact style replicated in another game, you kind of just like it's fine, but it's not like a great art style that absolutely needs to be copied 100%. Like this feels like it's doing a modern take on that, which also makes sense because it's a space game. So a more up-to-date art style definitely makes sense.
Yeah. I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do because I suspect travel will take time, and that's why there's lots of things to do on the ship, and that's where between traveling between planets to do your RPG part of it is where you do your farming and your crafting and kind of keeping up with things, and that gives you stuff to do while still having that sort of vaguely realistic travel aspect of things.
Yeah, I suspect you're right. And one of the things that I've seen in the trailer that kind of is appealing is in the center of what looks like some of the crops is a fan, rather than a sprinkler. And the reason that makes me excited is they just haven't said like, okay, so just grow crops on your ship and it's just traditional farming mechanics in space. Like, no idea what the fan is doing or what purpose it serves, but it just, at least to me, is saying, hey, we have thought about what it is that we are doing in our own location, and it's not just a direct copy and paste of the mechanics you've seen in every other game, but space.
Yeah, what are those doing?
I have no idea, but that's
interesting.
Just, yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of other bits and pieces. Like there's like clearly a bit that is where you're generating water. There's some different looking trees. You've got a little robot that's been going around. There's some interesting looking chests. There's greenhouses within this area as well. which presumably means that you can set greenhouses to like specific temperatures, stuff like that.
Yeah, the whole thing just looks really well thought out. So I'm excited to learn more about this game.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't feel like farming is like kind of bolted on. It feels like they've thought a lot about that. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes.
And they don't have anything in terms of release date, do they? Sorry, just...
That's a good question. They've said coming soon. I haven't seen anything else.
So coming soon. So stay tuned to future episodes for more updates, because I'll have them when they come.
Yep. And they've said they're coming on Windows and Mac. So Cody will be happy. Let me just check their website to see if there's anything. They don't have a website. Right. Moving on then. That's the news.
Woohoo!
So we're going to talk about Spirittea. So I guess quick intro. So this is a game. They describe it as Stardew crossed with Spirited Away. And the overall idea is you've moved into a town, as you do. You're always moving somewhere. And you have you drink some special tea called the Spirit Tea. And this allows you to see spirits that are caught in your world. And the spirits basically tell you that you have to run the bathhouse, the old bathhouse, which is a spirit bathhouse, which for some reason you can see the spirits in the bathhouse, but we'll get to that. And so that's the game. You're running this bathhouse. The spirits come in and you make sure that they're happy in the bathhouse, and that's how you make the money. And there's lots of other things around, like, you know, expanding things and blah 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 blah, but that's kind of like the main, like, it's not farming game, it is a bathhouse running game.
I was wondering, because this was announced a long time ago, I feel, right?
Yes.
Was this one of the first games that was sort of like talked about from a news perspective on the Harvest season? Because it's one of the first ones I sort of was... Before we went to play it, I was like, man, I remember this being announced years ago. So I was just curious if you remember if this was one of the first games that was sort of talked about from a news perspective.
I do not remember, but I am currently searching because I have everything, so I can search. So the first time we talked about it was in June 2022.
What? My timeline is totally messed up then.
COVID broke us all.
Right. Anyway, now that I've taken this totally off track.
Sorry.
Before we talk too much about the detail of the game, where are you at? Like, are you thumbs up, thumbs in the middle, thumbs to be determined?
So I think this is a really... So there are some issues with this game. Obviously, every game has some bugs and some issues, blah, blah, blah. But I think overall, I think this is a really nice game if it catches you. Now, I don't think it's the sort of thing that's going to grab me like Stardew Valley did, like Coral Island did, like Summer in Mara did, like some other games have caught me. But I don't think that's I mean, ignoring, like, we'll talk about the onboarding because obviously we have some stuff to talk about that. But I think other than that, I don't think there's like a fundamental, this is why I'm not jiving with this game as much as I normally would. I don't know whether it's, you know, maybe I'm being unfair to it because I'm playing Coral Island just now as well. And that's kind of where I'm, you know, my brain is wanting me to go, so maybe that's part of it, and I'm just going, oh, I just want to be playing Coral Island just now. But there's something about the kind of the gameplay loop of the bathhouse that I'm not finding hugely satisfying, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was a personal preference thing rather than a game design issue, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, because I think I feel fairly similarly to you, but not in a... You know, sometimes you play a game and you're really just ready to go like, thumbs down, I don't think there's much, you know, good about this game and I wouldn't recommend it. But that's not where I'm at with Spirittea. I just don't feel like it's a game for me, but I can totally see there being people that are like, no, this is absolutely the game for me and I really enjoy it. So I think I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I think that's... I think because it's not... like it has that repetitive nature which is enjoyable for these games, but it also has it where you've got your upgrades for your bathhouse, so you're slowly expanding things, so it still manages to have that like a lot of farming games have, that's quite satisfying. It also has a slight exploration thing in that you're constantly having to find new spirits, and it's kind of puzzly, but not really. They're not really difficult puzzles, right? But you get like a little bit like, oh, here's a thing, here's a hint towards how you do, and then you go to a place that the hint tells you to, basically, and then you find a spirit, and that kind of is another different aspect to it that I think could lead to slightly longer term. I'm enjoying this because I'm, slowly building up the list of spirits that I've found, that also then adds more complexity to the bathhouse in and of itself.
Yeah, and one of the things I wonder is the nature of the game, and being, running a bathhouse, and running the bathhouse requires effort, and consistent effort, I guess, at least in the early game. I wonder if part of the reason it's not grabbing me is because it didn't feel like there was a lot of choice. Where you talked about Stardew Valley earlier, where you don't have to do anything, but ostensibly you picked up the game because you want to run a farm. And the thing is to grow some parsnips, right? And that doesn't take your full day to do. You just plant them and water them, and then you can work out what else you want to do with the day. But it felt like I was very locked into, right, spend my full day at the bathhouse, running the bathhouse.
Yeah, that's very fair. Yeah, because that's one of the things that, as you say, certainly many of us on this podcast have really loved about games like Stardew, and I think Coral Island is the same, where there's so much variation in different things you can do, and there's very little you need to do, and I really like that. But yeah, whereas this is like, you have to run the bathhouse, like that's the game. It's a one. I wrote down on the. On the show notes, I always write down the list of mechanics that we're going to talk about, and there's three things there. One of which is the bathhouse, one of which is Spirit View, which we'll talk about later, because that's where you're finding the other spirits, right? So it's like a different thing to the bathhouse. And then I put lol fishing, because for some reason this game has fishing, and I've not even tried it because I'm not doing that. I don't want to play fishing, please and thank you. And I think that's basically it, right? There isn't another mechanic. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, simple games can work really well. And I know a lot of people's problems with Stardew Valley is, I don't know what to do, there's too much. And this doesn't have that issue. It is, here is the thing, go and do this thing. But certainly we are not those people. We love Stardew and other games like it because of the choices that it gives us.
Yeah, because I think my sort of takeaway with the bathhouse is like, oh, this is cool, and maybe we should talk a little more in detail about sort of what the bathhouse is. But my feeling was probably more that, like, in a game with more optionality, I would have gone away and found some other way to make money, so I could skip through a few of the things that I didn't love about how I thought the bathhouse was set up, right? So I could buy some of those early upgrades through another means, but that doesn't really exist.
Yeah. No, I think that's totally fair. Yeah, let's talk about the bathhouse mechanics then. So the idea is, you have these spirits, and they come in like various different forms, and you start off with like 2 of them, and then you add them on, and blah blah blah. The idea is, so there's a few different things you need to do in the bathhouse. First of all, is you need to have towels. So you need to get clean and dry towels, and then you put them at the front. The spirit will then grab a towel, and you can then take that spirit to a place in the bathhouse. And you start out with 1 bath, and you can slowly add more baths. And your job is to decide on places for the spirits to go where they have preferences on who they're sitting next to. And you have to make sure that you can lay it out in an efficient way to have the most number of spirits in there as possible, therefore making the most money. On top of that, you have to then obviously keep washing and drying the towels, and you have to keep the fire in the basement lit, for both heating the water and drying the towels. Is that a fair description of the mechanics of the bathhouse?
Yeah, I think so. There's not too much to, like, so when you're chopping the log to fuel the fire or washing the towels. It's usually just like a, hold A to complete the activity sort of mini games. There's nothing
Yes.
Particularly, there's no additional aspect to those. You're kind of just completing the task, right?
Yes, the difficulty, the challenge in the bathhouse is not any of the mini games. It's organization, right? It's an organizational game. You have to figure out the way to be most efficient, to make the most money, and to not make your spirits upset or anything like that.
Yes, and one of the things they do tell you very early on is that it will require trial and error to work out what your spirits do and don't like, and they kind of guide you that the two spirits you start with don't like to sit next to each other, which I think is kind of handy because you kind of know to start separating them. And then one of the things I think I found is that, because I was just lining up, red spirits on the left and blue spirits on the right, or I think they were red and blue. And then I think I got too many red spirits all in a line, and the ones in the middle started to get less happy. So there was clearly some, it's not just who do you like sitting next to games, but there's some bigger context clues going on.
Yeah. So I think that's probably the main thrust of why I'm not a huge fan, is like in my repetitive mechanical nature of a cottagecore game, I'm personally not looking for puzzles. Right? Like, I don't, this is why I like farming so much, is like, this is what you do, and if you do the same thing every time, it will work the same way, and you don't have to, your seed tells you when it likes to be, and you know that it needs water, right? These things are very clear. I like to know how this works. I like to have the clear rules, and I'm not a huge fan of kind of trying to figure these things out. That's definitely a me thing. I can imagine, like, lots of people love puzzle games, so I suspect if you love cottagecore games and you love puzzle games, that might be where this game is leading to. That might be the kind of person that's looking to this game.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I think I'm probably more similar to you, because one of the things I was kind of looking for was, like, which of these spirits should I prioritize, right? Like, red spirits maybe easier to keep happy but provide less money, and blue spirits are, more valuable but maybe they're harder to keep happy, or, what's the balance so I can make a choice, right? I want the puzzle. When I play a life sim game, I want the puzzle to be in making the choice, right? Do I want to buy the crop that grows in 4 days and is less profitable, or do I want the one that grows in 20 days but has a much wider profit margin, or do I want the thing that, recurs over the course of the month? Those sorts of decisions are easier because the outcome is deterministic, and the pace that these games move at, you kind of need that, right? Because if you got to the end of summer and you found that you'd made all of the wrong choices based on what you want to do, and now you have to wait, a long time before you get back to summer to be able to do those things again, that would be very frustrating. And that's where I think some of my lack of enjoyment came from when I was playing, is just the outcomes of what I was doing wasn't particularly clear.
Jonnie, are you racially profiling the spirits?
Yes. And this will be my last episode on THS. I look forward to being cancelled.
I mean, it is an interesting thing, right? Because one of the things that they tell you, your lovely floating cat on a donut, I think, whatever. One of the things he tells you is that you don't have to accept any of the spirits, right? If a spirit comes in and grabs a towel, you can take the towel and put it back at the door, and the spirit will go away. Which I mean is obviously an important part of the puzzle aspect of things. Otherwise, you could get in a situation where you can't solve anything, and sometimes the solution is telling this one to go away. But just when you make them like essentially dead people. It becomes a little bit awkward in terms of like, I'm just going to tell you to go away now, please. Don't come. I don't want you. Because it's like, especially one of the things that he says about turning them away is like, he says something along the lines of, if you think though, like, cause problems, or there's some, like, I can't remember the exact word, but like basically have a negative effect on your bathhouse. So it's like you're being a bouncer of in the bathhouse, right? Which just seems a little bit, I don't know.
Yeah, it feels very uncomfortable. And like it's one of those things like I would never want to do that, right? Like that's the whole point of the game of running
Yeah.
a bathhouse is meant to be like I want the spirits to come and use my bathhouse, and I get the puzzle aspect of being like, oh, you might want to turn this one away because you've got nowhere for them to go, but that's just not a feel good moment, right? Like,
Social
it's
anxiety, the game.
right.
But I mean, this is the thing. We keep all the points that we're bringing up are very much like, yeah, this is not for me, but I can absolutely see why people would like that, right? Like, what makes any particular aspect of life more or less real, something that is legitimate for a game, and just because we are not a huge fan of that doesn't mean that someone else won't be.
Yeah. And just on the bathhouse and sort of, I think what I wasn't grabbed by immediately was when you take over the bathhouse. It's obviously very run down. You've only got one pool, as Al mentioned, and it's kind of dirty or sort of cluttered everywhere. And it's seems clearly designed to. That's what you're supposed to level up and make the bathhouse look nice. And there was something that sort of was triggered in the back of my brain that was kind of like, but this is where I want to just kind of come in, having earned a bit of money doing something else, and just get a few upgrades, so at least it looks visually appealing, because the starting bathhouse does not grab me, which
There's
I had a real problem
like
with.
tree roots everywhere. And there's dirt and dust, and I just want to clean it up. Let me do that. Yeah.
Yeah, even if it was like, it started a little bit worse than what they presented, and one of the things you do at the start is just like tidy it a little bit, I think that would have helped me cross a hurdle, but it just looked so messy, and I was like, no, my character would just tidy this place up for like a week before we even let anybody in. We're just gonna clean. That's all we need to do.
Yeah, because you don't. This is the thing, right? Like, you don't even need to like upgrade the other baths, right, or unlock the other rooms or whatever. But like, at least dust, right? Come on, the entranceway is
Exactly. Yeah.
dusty.
Yep.
Yeah, it is interesting to me that wasn't one of the things you can do, because that feels very much like a cottagecore type thing of having menial tasks that you do, and it doesn't need to be something that you're doing on a regular basis, but it's absolutely something that you could be doing.
Yeah, my assumption is that you pay somebody to come and clean, and then that will make the spirits happier. Which, but it just so this is one of the things, and maybe we can transition this to talking a little bit about the onboarding. But it was one of those things that was like, but I in my time with the game, I didn't even get to see how we would upgrade the bathhouse, so I didn't have that roadmap sort of laid out in front of me, and I played through 4 or 5 days, had a couple of days at the bathhouse, so it was the fact that it wasn't there was a little frustrating, right? And we'll do what we always do and compare things back to Stardew, but one of the first things that you inevitably end up doing in Stardew is you visit Piers and you see the expanded bag on the counter. You can't afford it then, but you know that that's a thing that you can do and work towards. So it's very clearly laid out as a goal very early on, and I just didn't see those goals. Like I could intuit what those goals were going to be, but I had no frame of reference of like, so I earned this much money on day one. Is that 10% of what I need towards an upgrade, or is it 1%?
Yeah, that's the part, because like you obviously have an aspect of like, you can see that there are other baths with roots growing through them. You can see the stairs with more roots going over them. So you're aware that there's going to be some upgrades, but it takes quite a while for you to actually know anything about how to do them in the first place, never mind how much they cost. It is a theoretical thing, and it could as well just not exist.
Exactly. I feel like it was sort of the final part of what I found to be a very frustrating onboarding experience.
Okay, let's talk about that onboarding experience then. Tell me your thoughts.
So the game starts and you arrive in the town, and resident of the town who describes herself as like the grandmother of the town comes and talks at you a lot, and I'm sure explains some stuff about the game, and then starts to make jokes about how much this character is talking, which to me is the most frustrating thing that games do, is they're self-aware that they've put a bad experience in the game, so then they make the character joke about it. But all that does is basically tell me that, hey, we as the game developers are aware that this is bad and not fun, and now we're kind of making jokes about it. And so that happens, and then you wake up the next day and a different old woman character comes and talks at you a whole bunch more, and it just feels like this endless cycle of NPCs talking at you. And then your very first quest is to go around and talk to all of the NPCs in the game, and none of them have anything really interesting to say. It doesn't really introduce you to any of the mechanics that are relevant to the game. I'm not even sure how relevant most of the NPCs are to the game. So it was just this whole disconnected experience that kind of took, like half an hour before you even start getting into the spirit stuff, which is the reason I picked up the game. It's just too much dialogue that's not relevant to what you're doing in the game.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with you. I think the game could get a lot quicker into getting to the actual point of the game, right? Because it's not just like why you picked it up. It is the mechanic as well. It's like this is the point of the game. I do think that I can see why they've done some of the things. So it definitely needs to not be just telling you everything up front. Like, that's a thing that games need to stop doing. Don't tell me everything up front. Even if you're going to explain everything to me in detail, do it as I need to know them, not all at the front. Because apart from anything, I don't take anything in that way. Like, my brain just can't handle all that information all at once. And if you give me that information just before I need it, I get the information and then I put it into practice. And that is what has been shown time and time again to keep the information in people's brains. What I think is interesting about I suspect they want you to go and talk to everybody because it shows you where everything is, right? So, because after that, the next day, you have to go and figure out where some spirits are based on knowing the village and knowing all the different shops, or, well, knowing one of the shops. And so I suspect go and see all the NPCs. It basically, it shows you the whole village, right? You go around everywhere to see everybody. I don't think that's the best way to do what they did, but I do think that's why they did it. Why I will say that I have one positive thing about this is that I think the dog that will take you to the other NPCs is a fantastic thing. And I'm really sad that he's gone now. I want him through the whole game. I want to be able to find this dog at any point and ask him where any NPC is, please and thank you. I will also say, my last point about this, a lot of games do this where they're like, oh, go and talk to everyone in the village. Stardew does it, Coral Island does it. But the key point that I think Spirittea missed is Spirittea makes you do it before you can do anything else. Whereas with the other ones, it's a quest that you can do at your leisure or completely ignore if you don't care about it.
Exactly. Yep. Like, the fact that you have to do it is what's kind of annoying, because sometimes, like, you just want to wander the village and see, like, what can I do here? But there wasn't anything to do. I totally agree. The dog was great. So the way the dog works, you just interact with it. You say, I want to go see this person, and it takes you to that person. Just excellent mechanic. And the other, like, sort of the final point that I'll make on the onboarding, the thing that I remember out of all of the dialogue is that they explain why you can just wander into anyone's house, and they make a comment about how in this village everyone trusts each other and so no one locks their doors, and you can basically are just free to wander into anyone's house, which is one of those dumb things that happens in games that's like, that doesn't happen in the real world and it's never really explained. It's funny that they came up with an explanation for why you can do it, but it's not really relevant because everyone knows that you can do that in games. You don't need to explain it to us like then in your million lines of dialogue. But that's the thing I remember.
And I don't even remember that because, like, I struggle to read lots of stuff, as it is, and front loading all that. I didn't take in anything that they said, right? So I wasn't even aware that they'd made that joke. I did notice a few. I will say, when we're going on to dialogue, I think that a lot of the dialogue from I can't even remember, what's the cat's name, the cat spirit. Can you remember his name?
It's like Nya. It's NY. There's another N in there. We'll just call it
Anyway,
Nya
your
Cat.
tutorial dead cat, right? the, I find a lot of his dialogue like legitimately amusing. Like, not like laugh out loud funny, but like I'm gonna, I chuckle a little bit when I read some of them. Like, I'm actually finding his dialogue quite amusing.
Yeah, because he's very capitalist in like but trying to be secretly capitalist in a way that like it comes across a lot better than I'm probably describing it. But yeah, he's very good.
So
Like,
I
he's
think
very
that what I
interested
would
in the
say is like
bathhouse for. He's very
in weird
interested in
ways.
the bathhouse for like the money, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think my point is like I think the developer of this game like clearly has the ability to do good dialogue that can be amusing, and I think they need to lean into that and move away from what they think they have to do and do what they think they want to do, because I feel like the onboarding stuff feels a lot like, oh, I need to do onboarding, and not actually wanting to do it and therefore doing it in a way that you feel is the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And the cat's name is Wanyan. I've probably butchered the
Okay.
pronunciation, but there we go.
Yeah. Okay. We're not going to talk about the fishing. I don't think this game needed fishing. I didn't even try the fishing. I don't care. Like, if you're going to add any mechanic into a game that is a traditional farming game mechanic, don't let it be fishing. Oh my word.
Yeah, I feel like I've made my views on fishing in these sorts of games very clear, and I support that position.
I do like that Spirittea does not have romance. This is good,
I
because
agree.
you can still have relationships and like friendships with the NPCs, and you can build up those friends. But like I really like I do like I'm playing through Coral Island just now, and I am having a lot of fun trying to figure out the right person that I want to romance and figuring out the right ways to do that. But as we've discussed, not every game needs that, and I don't think this game needed it, and I think it works really well without it. I think there are probably some things that this game could do with, but it is not romance. Please do not add romance into this game. Please, I'm thanking you.
I totally agree, because to me, like the point of this game is about the spirits, right? Like, yes, you're part of
Yes.
a village, and that's an important part, but it's the backdrop for interacting with the spirits. So romance is like a pull away from that into an area of the game that isn't really needed. And what I was thinking about when thinking about that is like Fae Farm, right? Where Fae Farm has romance, which is very tacked on. It's not necessary for the same reason that it doesn't feel necessary for Spirittea. It's like Fae Farm is meant to be about the Fae realms and, all of these weird creatures. Like, why does it need that additional element just because it's a staple of the genre?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm trying to think how to finish this up. Is there anything else? I guess we haven't really talked much about the spirit view. Let's go. So I mentioned how you have hints towards where there are spirits kind of just randomly around the village, because I think the story is something like they get lost in this realm, they can't figure out what they're meant to do, and so you have to go and find them, and you convince them to go have a bath. Right? Basically, that's
Yeah,
fine.
and when they
It's ridiculous. I like it, but that's kind of the idea.
get lost and they sort of disturb the villages, right? So weird things happening in the real world is an
Yes.
indication that there's spirits there.
Yeah. So you get these little hints and you go to a specific place, and you know you're in the right place because your cat tells you, oh, this is the right place. Let's turn on Spirit View. And Spirit View is the thing that you drink the tea or you sleep. Apparently you can get it just by sleeping, but whatever, that's fine. And you can turn on Spirit View, and that allows you to see spirits. Interestingly, you can always see the spirits in the bathhouse. It doesn't matter. They they have a little story thing to say, oh, I think it's because I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter. It's fine.
Yep.
I feel like there's a trend here, right, of the game trying to over-explain a few things that we're like, we don't really care. It's because it would be a bad game if you couldn't do that, right? Like that, we know that's how it is.
Yep.
It would be like if Pokemon went, well, actually, these villages are always really small because actually it's from the mind of a 10-year-old and they don't pay attention to things that... No, we don't care. Right?
Yep. I mean, explain it because the bathhouse is on top of the mountain. You can see them on the mountain, but you can't see them in the village. Fine.
Yeah.
Done.
There you go. Done. Yeah. We don't care. There's a reason. It doesn't matter. That's fine. Great. But yeah, so you turn on your spirit view when you're in a specific place and you see the spirit, and then you and your cat talk to the spirit and convince them to stop being annoying and come and have a bath and calm down, basically. And then once you've done that, you then have another type of spirit, which, as we've discussed, they all have different things that they want to do. So it adds more complexity, but also then can, increase your money. And as you go, you unlock different bits and allow you to have more spirits and blah, 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 blah. I don't know. Is there anything else we need to talk about Spirit View, or is that enough?
I just really enjoy that to get Spirit View, you basically have to get high. Right? Like, that's what's happening. You just get stoned and then you can see spirits.
Is no one else drinking this tea? Right? Are they growing tea and nobody's having it, and I'm the only one that drink it and suddenly seeing all these spirits?
I assume they are not drinking it and then going ghost hunting.
Interesting.
They're just getting stoned in their own home and then, falling asleep. Also, maybe if they are seeing the spirits, they're not sure that they're actual spirits and they think they're just
That's a good point.
They don't have a cat.
That is a good... Yep, that's it. I didn't even think about that, of course. If you're going to take drugs and then you come down from that, your automatic thing is not, yes, what I saw was real. Yeah, that's totally fair. Totally fair. Okay. Anything that we've missed in this game that you want to talk about?
Like we don't need to have a conversation about it, but it's got your house designing and some of those other sort of usual features within these sorts of games. So some of those things look like they're there. And there was an area in the top left of the map that looked like it was covered in clouds, which I didn't get far enough in to unlock. I'm not sure if you know what's underneath those clouds.
No, I don't. I was assuming it wasn't something. I don't know. I saw it and thought, and then kind of ignored it. But I'm assuming at this point it's not. It's either future content or maybe it's something you unlock later on. Because neither of us have played tens of hours in this game.
But other than that, no, I don't think I have anything else to say. I think this is the sort of game that I would really recommend that if you're thinking about buying it, to maybe go and find a YouTube video of someone doing a Let's Play and watch the first 10 minutes, or at least find someone, running through the bathhouse and see if that is appealing to you. Because if it's not, there's just not much else going on in this game, right? So you've got to be grabbed by that puzzle element, which I ultimately think is a good thing for the sort of cottagecore genre, right? I like that we've got games that are kind of doing the thing that they said they were going to do. They're not adding a bunch else other than fishing, and just kind of being what they are. And it's not for me, but it will be for some people, which I think is a good thing.
I think that's the thing I want people to take away. We are not saying this game is bad by any means. We think we're actually saying that we're glad this game exists because it's doing things in a different way that some people will really like, especially if they've not liked, some other kind of cottagecore games, and that this is good. We don't want everything to be the same. I keep talking about Coral Islands episode. Everything doesn't need to be that, because if everything was that, I'm not going to play them all. I'm not going to enjoy them all, because they can't all be good like that. Whereas you can be different and you can have things in your game that are slightly different and slightly interesting. And this has kind of gone full in on that mechanic, which I think is a good thing because it's focusing on the one thing that it does differently. And if you like cottagecore games and you like puzzles and you like the thing you like about cottagecore games is this word is not a bad thing, the monotony, right? The regularity of what it's doing. You don't have to think about lots of things. You've got a few things to think about, and you also like puzzle games. This is probably a good game for you.
I completely agree.
Well, we can agree sometimes on a game.
Once a year. Once a year.
All right, cool. Well, thank you, Jonnie, for joining me to talk about Spirittea.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Where can do you want people to find you anywhere on the internet, or is it just come and join a Slack again?
Come and join the Slack. Patreon.com/thspod. Sign up, support this great endeavor that Al puts a ton of work into, and some of us show up and just flap our gums. But come and chat with us in the Slack. Have lots of fun conversations. I mean, it's such a good time, right? Because there's so many games coming out. There's so much being announced. We can't get to all of the games on the show, so we pick what looks most interesting to us. But you might be playing something that you think is worth covering, and places like the Slack are a great place to share what it is that you're doing, because there's just a lot, and we love to hear about it, and we love to talk about it. Come join us.
Yes, we can't play and cover all the games, so I take input from the Slack in terms of what people are interested in. There have been times where somebody's mentioned something and we're like, yeah, okay, let's cover that game because I hadn't really been considering it, but it seems like people are interested in it. You can follow me on mastodon.scott and on X as the Scottbot. You can follow the podcast on Tumblr and on Twitter at THSPod. You can find links to everything to do with the podcast and a feedback form on our website, harvestseason.club. As Jonnie mentioned, we do have the Patreon. There's a link on the website. You can also just go to patreon.com/thspod and support the podcast that way. Really appreciate any support that people give. If you can't give financially, that's totally fine. You can also just share the podcast. Tell people about it. People like to hear about things that they are interested in. Oh, I think that's everything. Thank you, Jonnie, again for joining me.
Thanks for having me. It is very early for me and very late for you, so I think I hope if we play enough energy for this one.
I'm going to bed and you're probably going back to bed.
Correct.
Until next time, farmers, have a good harvest. The Harvest Season is created by Al McKinley, with support from our patrons, including our pro farmers, Kevin, Stuart, and Elisa. Our art is done by Micah the Brave, and our music is done by Nick Burgess. Feel free to visit our website, harvestseason.club, for show notes and links to things we discussed in this episode. Oh, what on earth happened there with your audio?
Huh?
Oh, no, that's not you. Never mind. I clicked on a link. Ignore me. Let's keep going.
Okay. Oh, it's the video.
Yes. Yeah, I clicked on their video and I thought something had gone. Did you do the exact same thing there?
I did the same thing and I was like, oh, it's happening to me.
That is really off-putting. Anyway.
That is...